The MedTech pitch is back, and so is the stellar cast of judges that will choose this year's winner.
Andreas Wupper, Managing Director, Fresenius Medical Care Ventures GmbH. Melaine De Battista, Head FDI Digital Innovation Malta Enterprise. Hirak Parikh, Principal Venture Investments JJDC, Johnson & Johnson. Yote Kanapan, Senior Associate, Intuitive Ventures. So Young Park, General Partner, 1004 Venture Partners. Joshua Phillips, Co-founder and Managing Partner, Catalyst Health Ventures. Todd Schwarzinger, Partner, Cleveland Clinic Ventures. Sasha Berger, Investment Director, Neom Biotech. Miguel Borge, CEO, Malta Venture Capital. David Prime, Principal, Broadview Ventures. Good luck to all the participants, and let the pitches begin.
Alrighty, so the setup of the pitch competition will be 3 minutes to pitch, 3 minutes for Q&A. We're going to be strict on the 3 minutes because we have to get out of here so they can set up the gala that's going to be happening at 7:30 tonight. So we have a hard stop at 5:15. We're going to be very strict on the 3 minute time limit, cutting mics if anyone goes over. So with that said, I'll welcome up our first startup, Mark Wong, the CEO of AuguTrack Medical.
Hi everyone, testing. Could we get the slides up? All right, thank you. Hi, distinguished guests, judges, and fellow members. Has my time started? All right, thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I am going to take a few seconds to show that all of you are staring at me very intently and on the screen, right? So our vision is precious. And imagine not being able to see what's on the screen, and this actually affects millions of people. So our company, we are an AI company targeting macular degeneration. It affects 300 million people in the world, right? And the problem with this disease is management. Very similar to diabetes, it requires a long-term chronic management where vision is eventually lost, and there is no good way of tracking this at home. The only way to manage this disease is an eye exam in a hospital every month for the rest of their lives. That's just part one. The second part of the problem of this disease is the treatment is an injection into the eye. So it's not a pleasant experience to begin with. And today, there's no good way for disease management. They're either overtreated with injections because doctors don't know when to, whether the disease is quiescent or suppressed, or undertreated when patients miss visits. With that problem, AuguTrack has developed a solution that tracks how you look at a screen, and we have managed to digitize the follow my finger test. Basically, now patients and doctors have a better peace of mind. They just need to look at the screen, and if there's impairment in the visual field, our AI is able to pick it up. Simply look at the screen, and we will know when it needs to be treated. So if there's a change in a score, our AI will pick it up, and now doctors and now your nurse have a better idea of treatment. So we've essentially made precision treatment and telemedicine all from the comfort of one's home. Our AI works on any laptop and just need to put on the camera. So we have tested this, and more than 30 doctors have expressed interest. 2 clinical trials have been done, right? More than 350 patients, more than 1,000 eyes, and 6 publications. And we have 2 patents on our technology already granted in 4 regions. Right, so as mentioned, we have more than 30 doctors. We have patients who have expressed their interest in during our clinical trials to use this as quickly as possible. And I am looking for partners and investments. We are starting to raise in Series A. So And in terms of the market, right, and business model is very similar to diabetes. It requires long-term monitoring and monthly, and our business model will be a monthly subscription. So it's a large market, and the next disease, the sister disease, diabetic maculopathy, right, also another similarly large market. So we have a platform and huge potential for growth. So happy to join us, and look forward to working together with you all. Thank you. All right, Q&A.
What's the remediation? So you're tracking? Is this progression of AMD? What's the intervention?
So the goal is, how do we have better managing the disease better? Today they either overtreat because of injections, or they miss appointments and undertreat. So our intervention here is management of disease, is monitoring, not diagnostics. So for patients diagnosed with the disease, doctors prescribe the device. You now need to go and self-test twice a week. And if there's a change in your visual field sensitivity, our AI will pick it up. That means you need treatment.
Can you comment on the revenue model and reimbursement?
So we have been speaking with partners in the States. So what we've realized around the world is reimbursement is different depending on the geographical region, especially in States. And even in the States, different regions and states have their models. But we are looking at a couple of CPT and HIPS codes. That's one. But in terms of the business model, it's very similar to diabetes management, where diabetics need finger pricks. So in our case, they just need to get a device prescribed, and they do self-tests twice a week, and it will be a subscription model monthly.
So there are a number of players that do this with OCT in the home, and it's progression from dry to wet AMD.
No.
Is that the same approach here?
No, not the same. So progression from dry to wet is about 10%. We are looking at recurrence of wet and whether the efficacy of anti-VEGF injections are working. So today, doctors don't know whether the disease is quiescent or recurred. They inject anyway, so that's a problem. And if you don't know whether the disease recurred and you inject, it really gives patients that uncertainty, right? And the injections are not cheap. It's expensive and it's unpleasant, right? So what we have done here is we can now change the posology. Doctors now know, okay, if your score hasn't changed, you actually may not need an injection. So we are not a conversion from dry to wet. We are a monitoring of disease recurrence or return.
But does it change therapy? So you're saying either they would no longer get the injection?
No, they need the injections, but when do they need to inject? That's what our AI determines. So do you need the injection next week or 3 months later, or what? Today, they don't know. So they go for regular monthly OCTs. So doctors will say, okay, you're fine this month, come back next month. And they have to do that for the rest of their life. So it's very burdensome, right? So our technology makes the whole management of these diseases much easier. Instead of OCTs monthly, now we track, okay, your score is fine. When the score changes, there's something happening, you really need to go and get yourself checked out and treated. So we have enabled precision medicine in a telemedicine platform. And we're not replacing doctors or OCT either, right? We're just giving patients and caregivers a peace of mind, right? Home-based tracking, and only treat when you need to.
And who's the team behind this project?
Right, so the founder, not founder, but the idea came from our doctor, who's still our PI, right? So Professor Lauder, he's a senior con at Tan Tock Seng in Singapore, as well as Professor Tok Han. So so these two doctors, they came up with the idea several years back, 4 years. OcuCheck's a young company. So then I was brought on board, and I just did some coding and looked at the overall business and strategy. But our clinical inventor, so the idea came from a doctor, and a doctor is your PI. So the founding team, we are led by a Trendlines group, and of course, my background is biomedical, and I help code and design some of this stuff.
Yep. Let's give a round of applause.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Up next, we're going to have Cedric Spass, General Manager of our Spectra Medical.
Thank you. Dear jury, I'm Cedric Spraas, the founder of our Spectra. We're specialized in medical augmented reality solutions. One of our key applications is, can you put the slides on? One of our key applications, for example, is breast cancer. Especially with the detection of sentinel lymph nodes, this avoids repeat surgery, reoccurrence, and negative patient outcomes. So if you look at today's state of the art, we're looking at fluorescence-guided surgery, big, large devices that are rolled in the operation room, big cameras that need to see this near-infrared signal. We propose augmented reality glasses. Surgeons put them on, can immediately, on their patient, see the actual target through the skin. So this is live. It's naturally more accurate because you're seeing immediately what you have to do. It's cost and time efficient, and it's a better patient outcome eventually. This is technology developed since its inception with surgeons, so it's not a standard augmented reality headset that you can get in any consumer goods store. It's a very specific headset. It's a result of combining the best out of two worlds. So you have this world of fluorescence-guided surgery, the existing state of the art, and the rising industry of augmented and mixed reality systems. We took the best out of two and created a new device. This device has over 10 patent families in protection. It's developed by a team of over 30 experts in augmented reality, machine learning, computer vision, but also quality, regulatory, and commercial elements. We're well guided by an extensive scientific and strategic board, and we are connected to a lot of hospitals in Europe and in the US. It's also not our first success story. 2 of our devices are already launched in the US and are scaling big with big MedTech in the US. The third one is the go-to platform at this moment, competing with Microsoft HoloLens and Magic Leap. It's the only 3 devices in the world that can do what we can do. Looking back at specifically the fluor market, we're aiming by 2029 to have about 80 million plus in revenues on that specific device and aiming at least 10% of market shares in our primary US and European markets. We can further diversify afterwards to other cancers or to other applications like in the orthopedic industry. Our go-to-market is being present at key trade fairs, at large conferences, also involving our famous key opinion leaders from large clinical institutions in the US and beyond. And the technology is basically available for just a bit more than $1,000 a month for surgeons. Our nearest competitor in price is $100,000. So we're disrupting that technology market with much better usability, but also a price that is much more accessible. As a company, we aim to be break-even by 2027. We're further developing technologies. We're launching commercially in many more countries right now. We're extending our team to 50 plus people, and to support it, we're opened a Series A of 10 million right now. Thank you.
What are you displacing?
Sorry?
What technology are you displacing? Is it just traditional imaging?
So we're basically covering you get more and more diagnostic data, more devices in an operation room. All of this can be replaced with a simple headset that can show multiple screens. That's the basics of augmented reality. The moment you add other sensing capabilities, like we did in this device, you can actually make them actual diagnostic devices. The surgeon just has to wear the glasses and look at his or her patient. They can see through the skin to see the near-infrared targets and beyond. In orthopedics, we can guide needles, we can do many things.
What data streams are currently managed by this AR set of glasses? Like what images is the physician being shown, and where is that data coming from?
So for example, this device, the classic device is a big camera with a black and white image of the near-infrared signal, which we can't see with our naked eye. So you have a big camera with a different point of view, a different angle, and the surgeon is basically forced to look at that screen up and down all the time. With our glasses, you basically see it live in front of you, as if you suddenly, the invisible became visible thanks to those glasses. All directly. I mean, you don't spend subjective time rotating, trying to understand what's on that image. You literally see it live through the skin.
So what is the biggest challenge for you in getting this adopted by, like, all doctors, right? I'm sure some people love it, but what's the biggest challenge? Like, is it usability? Is it getting used to a different device, or they don't trust trust the accuracy? Like, what's the biggest challenge you're facing in getting this adopted?
So the real challenges are regulatory, but in terms of usability, I mean, some people just don't like to wear glasses, except if you can prove them that it's a true practical advantage. If instead of rolling in a big tower and asking you to spend time to compare, you still only have to wear glasses, but they literally avoid you to save 15 minutes of your time per procedure, you're going to be changing to your glasses. If you don't need to rotate and think anymore about what that image says and how it's displaced from a 2D to a 3D reality, you're going to take the glasses. And the only frame we see right now is that people truly have to put the glasses on their head to truly understand the advantages. So we're doing a lot of demo tours, a lot of practical implementations, and the most convincing is actually other key opinion leaders, famous surgeons that are using the technology and sharing this, and that's the best way to convince other surgeons in adopting our technology.
What's your way into the guidelines? I mean, besides regulatory, which is obviously something you're working on, what's your pathway to become recognized and recommended as the tool to use?
The biggest publicity we probably get is the fact that we partner with some of the biggest MedTech in the world. In many of the devices that we already put to market, so our Spectra brand on itself is becoming more and more known. That's a big advantage. It also gives confidence on the devices we make. And this is actually...
All right, that's 3 minutes. Sorry, we have to keep it strict. Round of applause for Cedric, please. All right, thank you, Cedric. Up next, Maria Cristina Bartolo, CTO of Orthonica Limited.
Thanks. So, last February, I was on a skiing trip, and on my way down the slope, my leg got stuck under me, I fell, and I tore my ACL in my right knee. In a split second, I went from skydiving and paragliding to continuous pain and struggling to walk. It's these moments that make you realize the impact injury actually has on your quality of life. When I heard that pop in my knee and I felt a rush of pain, I was sure I had completely destroyed my meniscus, but I was one of the lucky ones. So the menisci are soft tissue structures in the knee that help distribute the load in the joint. Unfortunately, they're prone to injury, making meniscus surgery one of the most common orthopedic surgeries worldwide. The standard of care is actually removing that tear, but this leads to persistent pain, osteoarthritis, and total knee replacement. To date, there is no approved synthetic replacement option for irreparable meniscal injuries. So where does this leave patients? Here are two examples of requests received from patients every day. The second patient, at the age of 30, has osteoarthritis after a failed meniscal repair and a partial meniscectomy. The meniscus is now torn again and is deemed inoperable. This is a greenfield market opportunity with a high unmet clinical need. It is reported that 2.5 million meniscectomies are performed worldwide annually, and that 25% of these patients would benefit from a meniscal replacement, making this a $1.6 billion market opportunity. Our innovative solution allows surgeons to simply remove the damaged meniscus and replace it with a synthetic alternative. Thereby reducing pain, delaying osteoarthritis, and allowing patients to go back to their daily activities, and hopefully also return to sport. Our TMR mimics the natural meniscus with a completely anatomical design, fully biocompatible materials, a chondroprotective soft polymer, established fixation method, and minimally invasive surgery. Our treatment solution has been validated in a preclinical proof of concept study using a highly translational animal model, and this has demonstrated implant body integrity with no cracks or tears, which is the primary mode of failure of the meniscus, together with limited signs of cartilage damage and secure fixation. The animals were also fully load-bearing and showed no signs of pain, showing that normal knee function was restored. Our team of 7 ranges from serial entrepreneurs to R&D engineers with fantastic input from world-renowned leaders, including Mr. Andy Williams and Mr. Tim Spaulding, who are top consultant surgeons in the meniscal repair field, and Professor Andrew Amos, who is an expert in orthopedic biomechanics.
How much money are you raising, and how far will it take you? How far will the money take you? How much are you raising, and how far will it take you?
So we're currently raising 2 million, and we're hoping that that covers all preclinical work, including verification, validation testing, and our 12-month GLP study, all the way to the first-in-human study, which is planned in 2024. Sorry, 2027.
I saw you had a 25% eligibility estimate on your slide.
Yep.
What makes a patient eligible or ineligible for this?
Sure. So there's firstly an age range. You have to be above 18, and then there's a limit on how old you are. Usually it's 55 years of age, which is what the allograft limit is. And then there's also partial meniscectomies where the patient is still in persistent pain after 6 months, or patients who have received a total meniscectomy and they currently have nothing in their joint.
I had a quick question on your clinical study. So you did a preclinical one as load bearing, which is great. How big was the study with the animal? And then the other question was, I wasn't sure if you talked about the longitudinal effect of it, because this is sort of an acute response that you're measuring. So have you been tracking that, or what's the metric that you're using to show that this is a long-term solution?
Sure. So the study was 7 animals for 3 months. This was a proof of concept, so we weren't looking at long-term systemic toxicity yet. That's what the 12-month GLP study is for, but we have done histology to look at what the cartilage is like and staining the cartilage in the right way, as well as integration inside the bone tunnels with the straps that attach to the tibia. We look at lameness of the animals. Obviously, that's visual. There's a sheep grimace pain score where you can actually score how much the sheep are actually in pain during the study. And then we look at also the movement of the knee at post-mortem and how well the implant moves.
Could you explain your regulatory path? What is your regulatory designation?
Sure. So we are planning to run our first-in-human in the UK, since our KOLs are based there and we are also based there, but we will plan to build our company up to go towards the US market. So we'll go for FDA approval first and then continue on for CE mark and go towards Europe.
And what about the revenue model that you are going to apply?
What about?
The revenue model.
So we are raising this current round to get us to the first-in-human. We'll raise a second round for the first-in-human's clinical study, and then at that point it is highly likely that we'd partner with one of the strategics to get us to an RCT approval and then launch.
Any more questions? All right, let's give it up for Maria. All right, up next is Jake Edik from Magsorbio. He's the CEO and co-founder. Let's give it up for Jake.
All right, so Magsorbio is a fast follower in the absorbable implant space for orthopedics. We are leveraging a superior technology to go after both a larger market and get superior outcomes compared to our competitors. So we all know someone with titanium implants in their body to fix broken bones. These are implants with a temporary purpose, but often left in the patient permanently, limiting function, causing pain and complications. And for many patients, they go through a complex patient journey where they see lots of trauma, time, and cost, up to a removal surgery. But the lucky few who have their hardware removed report huge benefits in both pain and function. So what if we can get those same benefits for all patients without the trauma, time, and cost? Well, if the implants were absorbable, we could do that. The challenge is that implant technology that has the strength of titanium and safe optimal absorption characteristics just don't exist yet. And that's why we invented our patent-pending CureSorb alloy. So this is an alloy, strength of titanium, safe optimal absorption. What's critical is it doesn't use a coating like our competitors that allows us to address a much larger market. We've proven superiority to competitors on the bench. We've proven it in preclinical models. And our team is industry veterans. So myself and Carolyn, we started on this technology at Boston Scientific. We developed a magnesium alloy for stents that is on the market in Europe. Christian Nopfli comes out of Stryker. He designed implants and instrumentation at Stryker. the rest of our team, clinical, regulatory experts, entrepreneurs, surgeon key opinion leaders. So we are taking this technology to market in screws for lower extremity fixation, followed by maxillofacial plating. We have partners lined up for sales and distribution that put us into 5,000 hospitals in the US. Obviously, this is a huge market, and our plan right now is to raise a $3 million seed round to get us into first-in-human clinical studies in Australia in 2026. That will be in our Series A, where we also get 510K clearance. Series B will be commercial expansion. Comps in this space, we expect a really high acquisition at $450 million. We know who our strategic targets are. One of our direct competitors was recently acquired just a couple weeks ago. And we expect to exit in 2029 when we get to revenues above $5 million. Seed round valuations there, or seed round returns for prospective investors are up there, really attractive, and that's based on that pathway to market that I showed you. And so again, we are a fast follower in orthofixation with a superior technology. Our competitors have done us the favor of proving out the regulatory pathway, proving out the market, and we're raising a $3 million seed round to work towards our first-in-human clinical studies. Thank you.
Could you please explain your go-to-market strategy? It seems like you are targeting almost 50% of SAM. Could you explain how can you support that?
Yeah, so it's actually about 30%, and that's just based off the current market breakdown. So when you break down these individual markets currently, they're really dominated by 3 or so top players, each running between 20 to 35% market share. So we put our estimate within that 20 to 35.
So you mentioned being a fast follower. I'm less familiar with the space, so could you explain what it is about your technology that's superior to the incumbent?
Yeah, so the first thing is not using a coating. So we control our absorption profiles all through metallurgy. Our competitors are all using coatings, and what's different about that is when you're designing for things like plates that need to be cut and bent and shaped, a ceramic coating is not going to survive that, and so our competitors have a much smaller addressable market than what we can. So because we can outperform them in those respects, we can target a much larger market.
And what's the view of the regulators on the uptake of the metal?
Yeah, so one of our competitors had their de novo cleared in lower extremities last year, so that's why it's a traditional 510K in that space. Maxillofacial will be a full de novo, will be the first in that because we're the only ones that can do that space. Basically, they want to see just a lot of biocompatibility testing, so local and systemic toxicity according to ISO 10993 standards.
Instead of also looking at what you can do differently, I mean, others have done quite a number of mistakes as well. So what you want to not basically do what others have done?
That's a good question. So we don't want to push technology too quickly until we validated it. So that was what one of our, the very first competitor to market did, was they pushed the technology too hard, too far, before they were able to learn about some of the shortcomings on how they absorbed. They then added a coating too late, and they were driven out of the market. So doing small limited market releases, really following our competitors, letting them pave the market, answer some of the difficult questions for us, and then do it better, because with our technology, we can do it better.
You mentioned the FDA and the US market. Are you also planning to target the European market and get your CE mark as well?
Yeah, depending on what happens with MDR and how that all changes, as we all know, I'm sure that's changing again. So just a lot of uncertainty. So FDA for now, when the uncertainty goes away and it's a little more clear, then yes.
Any more questions? All right, let's give it up for Jake. Up next, Houston's own Megan Pitcher, CEO and co-founder of Baritone Health.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so sleep apnea is much more than a disease of annoyance. These are suffocation events. People stop breathing during sleep. And some people, this can happen hundreds of times per night, with each event lasting up to a minute or more. left untreated leads to really horrible health outcomes with over 900 million people affected worldwide. However, most people only become aware of their problem because they're sharing a bed with a very concerned partner, in case this image seems familiar to y'all. So a major problem with sleep apnea are the diagnostics. The most scalable ones that you may be familiar with, like home sleep tests, are not predictive on patient response to treatment. There's an opportunity because the field is moving towards looking at anatomy as a way to predict how the patient might respond. The problem here is that the only way to get that information now is in the operating room using something called sedation endoscopy. The problem with this is because it happens in the OR, there's a backlog to schedule it, it's a per use of OR time, it's expensive, and you're inducing a state that is not really physiologic sleep. Baritone wants to solve that problem by making anatomy screening for sleep apnea as easy as a home sleep test. The workflow we have in mind is that a patient uses this in their own bed, they upload data to the app the next morning. During that night of sleep, what we've done is use passive sonar sensing AI to identify when a patient has an apnea, along with the area configuration that caused that suffocation event. We send that information directly to a doctor, and they plan the treatment for the patient. Here's a video of our prototype working in real time on a patient. We've tested this at a few people at Houston Methodist Hospital. And you can see in real time showing these collapse sites at different levels of the airway. We've tested this on a few people already, and it works really well. We like to charge $1,000 per diagnostic, and that's compared to $5,000 for the standard of care, the sedation sleep endoscopy. This slide has a lot going on, but this is just a sampling of all the activity going on in the sleep apnea treatment space. These are all the companies on the right. What they want to do is identify patients that they can treat and have really high cure rates in. They want to have good outcomes. We help them solve the problem of anatomy diagnosis by making it faster, easier, and more reliable sedation endoscopy. Our beachhead market is this tech. These are the nerve implants, 700,000 and eligible and growing in the US. Beyond that, we think about replacing home sleep tests and then moving on to the snoring market. On our team, we have Owner Killich, acoustics experts, 70 issued patents in this space. Britt Cross is our chief medical officer, expertise on workflows and payments, and a CEO I bring a background of working in IP and biotech. Advised by a really great team of sleep experts, including Ruchir Patel, a sleep doctor who's also invested in the company. Where we're at and where we're going, have a working prototype, working AI, 2 patents pending, 800K raised in our pre-seed round. Looking towards the future, we want to do a seed round next year of $3 million. Looking towards FDA clearance and product launch in 2026. So with that, I've been Megan Pitcher at Baritone Health. We want to help you sleep like a bear without sounding like a bear. Happy to take questions. Thank you.
So Megan, sorry if I missed this. Could you explain, is this a screening tool to get the right patients into an in-hospital sleep study, or is this after someone has a sleep study? How does it fit into kind of patient pathway?
So the current workflow is a patient gets a home sleep study, they try a CPAP, and when that fails, they start doing stuff until something works. So where we fit in that workflow is after a patient has failed CPAP, we would then be the next screener to determine what type of surgical procedure they might be suited for. Where we want to be is the first step. Why go through all of that rigmarole and try a CPAP if you're not going to work? We'd like to move to the front. We can do the basic sleep apnea diagnosis as well, and we can also give this anatomy screening that can give some indication of how a patient will respond.
So how do you get to that later step?
It's building the trust. So getting the first launch in the sleep surgery market that we're aiming after, collecting more data to show that we have this influence on identifying patients that are going to do well with CPAP, identifying patients that do well on dental device, and then moving up that pathway, getting buy-in.
But moving up the pathway, is there a regulatory step there, or is it just a commercial growth question?
It's a commercial growth question. What our indication for getting this anatomy step is going to be the most challenging step. Lots of people have cobbled together sleep apnea, even Apple Watch, they have it in the watch. It's not hard to do that step, and we have it already in what we've built.
So maybe I didn't catch this. This is going to be a direct-to-consumer, or is it like the doctor is going to prescribe it?
This is a prescribed device. There is some. The consumer market is interesting, but we're a MedTech company. It could be something in Baritone's future.
And then, what are other competitors that are in that space? And the other question that would come is like, what about usability factors, right? If someone doesn't place the device correctly, like how do you maintain like uniformity across different thing, and how are you verifying it? Like, are you comparing like with the CPAP machine or doing like the surgical? Like, what's your gold standard that you're comparing against?
Sure. So there's a couple questions there. As far as competitors around identifying anatomy collapse, there's another pre-market company that's using a different approach attacking the same problem. When it comes to our gold standard, we think about sedation sleep endoscopy, which is already not a very good procedure. These are doctors looking at endoscope and kind of making a report. So the number we go after is the inter-rater reliability. Do two doctors look at the same endoscopy video and make the same call? They have about an 87% inter-rater reliability, and we're already at like 84%. So that's how we make our metric there. When it comes to other metrics around your basic home sleep testing, those are well understood. How well does your gadget identify an apnea event? We already have really good metrics on that as well.
What's the interplay and, I don't know, maybe threat of GLP-1 with
Can you repeat the question?
The GLP-1 threat or kind of interplay with what you all are doing?
Oh, actually, we have an interesting viewpoint of that. We could actually probably predict how people are going to respond to GLP-1 and how that interacts on how their sleep apnea is recovering from that. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Megan. All right. Up next is going to be Roger Asseker, CEO of MD Sim.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Let me tell you the story behind MedSim. And here is the co-founder team getting together a while ago. So what you have on the left is Richard. He is professor of neurosurgery, specialized in spine, 16,000 operation, 40 patent, multiple medical devices, and he's our chief medical officer. On the right, we have Danny, PhD in computer modeling and simulation, specialized in quality and regulation, and he's taking care of quality and regulation for us. And myself, I'm an entrepreneur, have also PhD in computer modeling and simulation, created companies, sold companies, bought companies, and the last company that I was running, 300 million, 2,000 people, all in the area of aerospace and automotive. So what we decided, and it happens that we are three brothers, and we decided to get together to solve an unmet need of the problem of spine surgery, and spine surgery failing after surgery. So we built a team, 11 PhDs and in AI, computer modeling and simulation, and biomechanical engineering, surrounded by teams of advisors, medical advisors, scientific advisors. And what we are after is back pain, which is concerning 60 to 80% of the population. And this becomes even worse due to aging, scoliosis, osteoporosis, and others, which create the spine to deform and to degenerate. The clinical solution for this is what we call spine fusion. Basically, they open the back, they cut some bones, they put screws into vertebrae, and they connect them by a rod. This is complex, can take 10 hours, costly, $200,000, and it fails almost 1 out of 2 times, for 40% failure rate. And for us, for surgeon, it's like normal day. For us as an engineer, it's shocking. So this is why we took concepts which have been used for 60 years to build every aircraft that you are flying, every car that you are doing. So the concept of a digital twin, so we create a digital twin of each one of us. And this digital twin is based on normal modalities, nothing new, and then we use it to assess the state of the spine and to predict how it will evolve. This is in the prevention area, but if things get bad and you need to have surgery, the digital twin will help you plan the right surgery. So put some science into the art of spine surgery. So it is a digital twin, and it's developed into 6 different products, from checkup centers, so from prevention to planning and to educating the next generation of surgeons. So again, the technology behind it, computer modeling and simulation, I've been running the company which pioneered it to take the NASA to the moon, and its AI will make it accessible to surgeons today. So what is important on top of the team and the technology and the unmet need is the timing for it. Today, the healthcare trends are all for us, and AI which make it happen. The market is big, 3 billion in addressable, and we are going to market next year. Any question?
You have the slide already on. So what's your revenue model? How do you make money?
So we'll be selling software as a service. So it will be the surgeon or the hospital will pay for each operation. So when you use it to plan an operation, at least in the surgery planning side, they will pay between 250 euro and 1,000 euro per surgery to plan the surgery correctly. And we'll sell it directly to the hospitals or through a partnership with med device companies that they will offer it to their surgeon to support the navigation and the robotics with the right planning before doing navigation and robotics. So it will be paid by the medical device company to us, and they will offer it for free to their surgeon to use their devices, to use their screws and rods and robots and so on.
Is it eligible for the reimbursement?
Today we are not get into the details of reimbursement, so each country is different, but it will get into the package, in some countries it will get into the package of innovation of the hospital, of the package per surgery, kind of whatever you use, it's in one package per surgery, acted.
What's the change in outcomes that you're expecting, and how do you plan to collect that data?
Sorry?
What is the change in clinical outcomes that you're expecting with the use of this technology, and how do you plan to collect that data?
Yeah, we are expecting to reduce the failure rate, the revision rate, which is 40% today. Some patient has to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 surgery. And we think that, it's based on it's not surprising because we cannot predict what is the distribution of load within the spine and the devices and why it's failing. So what we are expecting is to reduce this revision rate, but we are not daring to claim it at this point of time. But we'll give like some science. We'll say, depending on the plan of the surgeon, we'll tell him this plan is more risky than this plan, and the clinical outcome is more complex. But at least we'll tell him that if you are using this plan, it's too loaded. So be careful. You can break the spine or you can break the device. Any other question?
Any competitors on the market?
All the competitions from the big players like Medtronic and so on, it's only on the geometry. No one of them can really create the digital twin, biomechanical digital twin, which includes the muscles, the ligaments, the intervertebral discs, the loads, and so on. No one. There's one other startup which is trying to do exactly what we are trying to do with a different spin on the technology. But I think we will be, modestly speaking, we will be the winner because, we've been doing this forever. I run a company which pioneered it, as I said.
And is this regulated as software, as a medical software?
It's a medical device. At least the alignment software is a medical device class 2. But we have other products which are the connectivity with the patient and the prevention one that we think, we didn't finish the study yet, but we think that there will be class 1.
Up next, please welcome Ryan DeBoer, CEO of the Shape Sensing Company.
Thank you. As John said, I'm Ryan DeBoer, CEO of the Shape Sensing Company. We're building a next-generation 3D guidance platform technology to enable doctors to navigate devices inside the body during minimally invasive procedures without X-ray. We're doing this because X-ray has significant limitations. It only provides two-dimensional views of devices and our bodies, which are inherently three-dimensional structures. The limited visibility leads to longer procedure times, which require more anesthesia, more contrast, higher radiation exposure, and in the end, a higher chance of complications. So we're building a 3D guidance system using our proprietary fiber optic shape sensing technology. It provides three-dimensional visualization of devices overlaid onto patient-specific digital anatomical models. And we do this without X-ray. I'll show you how it works. We take a long, thin fiber optic sensor, and we shoot a beam of light down the length of it. It kind of looks like a fishing line. By the way that it reflects back to us, we can provide the real-time location of the full length of that sensor. Now we put that sensor into a medical device. As you'll see here, we put it in a guide wire. And as it's navigated through this 3D model, you can see on the top digital version that the location is updated in real time in pink. The doctor can zoom in, rotate around, and get a really good understanding of the location and orientation of the device inside the body, increasing precision in navigation and reducing procedure times. You can probably see how we can take this anywhere, from endovascular wires to endoscopes, surgical robotics, and more. We've identified 6 target markets that are all multi-billion-dollar markets. And we already have strategic partners in all of those markets that have purchased our equipment and are at various stages of validation and pre-development. In that partnership, we will be the core technology experts providing the sensors and the 3D modules, and assisting with co-development. Now, if you look at just the procedures that our current customers are targeting right now, our market opportunity is $3.4 billion. And our team has experience in building innovative solutions just like this. Our co-founders have been working together for 12 to 15 years, and that included a previous successful exit. They brought in Alex, our CTO out of NASA. He's the inventor of the technology. And in 2020, they launched the Shape Sensing Company. 18 months ago, they brought me in to help navigate the technology into the medical space. I have 20 years of experience in commercialization at Boston Scientific, St. Jude, and Rhythm Science. And together, we're not just building a tool. We're building an entire platform, transformational platform that is going to enable an entire new generation of 3D-guided devices for decades to come. We're validated by the multiple strategics that are vying to work with us right now, and we were accepted into both JLabs and MedTech Innovator this year. Thank you very much. We'll take your questions.
So if I understand it correctly, you can see where your catheter is all along the way. What are you overlaying that on? What kind of imaging, and how do you register those to make sure that you're looking at this correctly in 3D?
Yeah, great question. So we can use a variety of different imaging modalities. What I showed you there was taking a CT scan and creating a 3D geometry. We can use an MRI as well. We can even use multiple 2D X-ray images to create our 3D guidance or 3D coordinate system. And the registration process can be done in a variety of ways as well, and it'll be application specific. We can take snapshots within X-ray and localize where our device is and create our 3D coordinate system from there. Or we can use different parts of the anatomy, knowing the shape of our sensor and the shape of that anatomy, and register that way.
What's your intended price structure if you go to market, and how do you expect to overcome potential budget issues with hospitals facing or introducing a completely new technology?
Yeah, good question. So our model for going to market is as a partner and technology expert. So we will be working with strategics for the end commercialization. So it'll be a partnership to overcome those obstacles in the capital equipment. Revenue structure is going to be based on a margin on top of our cost of goods for sensors and modules, and then licensing coming in for access to the technology as well.
So if you're putting this on a guide wire and then, say, delivering a device or using an interventional tool, would that tool or device also need the fiber optic sensor, or would then X-ray get used to maybe deliver a device? Like, how do you think about the whole workflow?
Yeah, that'll be application specific as well. We want to put our sensors in as many devices as possible, so that as many devices can be visualized in 3D. There will be some exceptions, like an angioplasty balloon that when you insert contrast in there and expands, we will still need X-ray. We won't completely get rid of it, but the more devices that can have our sensors, the less radiation exposure for everybody.
For an example, like, I don't know, a stent, a relatively simple endovascular procedure, is that like going all the way upstream to the manufacturers and saying, hey, everyone, Boston, put this in your stent, Abbott, put this in your stent, and getting it as part of a manufacturing process, or is it something you do at the time of the procedure?
Yeah. One way to overcome the stent visualization is to have markers on our wire so we know where the stent is and get it all the way to the point where it needs to be expanded, and then just do the final expansion with the balloon under fluoroscopy, but all along delivering it to that location will be all in 3D.
Do you envision a regulatory clearance for the technology, or is it going to be every device that uses it will have to go through its own process?
That'll be application specific. Once we get the first one through, the rest we anticipate being 510Ks.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Up next, please welcome John Broomfield, CEO of Berlin Heels Holding.
Hello everyone, my name's John, and I'm going to talk about Berlin Heels. Before we get started, I want to do a little bit of interactive work with the audience. So if everyone can look to the person to your right, look to the person to your left, and look at the person in front of you. in your lifetime, 1 of the 4 of you will develop heart failure. The pandemic is huge. 64 million today, it's growing rapidly. This is coming because we're getting really good at stenting, we're getting really good at giving medications to reduce the risk of acute death, which means now these patients are living longer. They're living longer with the chronic condition of heart failure. And most solutions today are based on reducing symptoms or just focusing on one small intervention. Very few are actually focused on reducing or reversing the disease, until now with the CMIC system. So at Berlin Heals, we've created a technology called the CMIC platform, where you take a defibrillator-looking lead that's put in millions of patients around the world. You place it in the right ventricle. Surgically, we put a patch on the left side of the heart, and then we create a direct current between these 2 poles. It's placed just like a pacemaker, and the microcurrent through the cells actually create this environment of healing. So we see reduction in inflammation. We see markers across multiple protein signals where inflammation reduces. This small X-ray image here shows one of our first-in-man patients where you see this large dilated cardiomyopathy, and within 6 months, the heart's half the size. We've done 2 clinical trials where we followed them for up to 30 months. Our RCT was just stopped early for CE trial because the effect was so good. I'll show you the results here from our first study. The second study is under review. We're hoping for a late breaker at ACC in March. But our first study showed an absolute EF improvement of 10 points. That's a 30% increase. In NYHA, all 10 patients were significantly symptomatic, and by the end of the study, 8 of the 10 had 0 symptoms. You double your work capacity, you double your quality of life. The results are pretty impressive. The team, I come from 20 years med device in heart failure and CRM, whether it's St. Jude, Abbott, CardioMEMS, Thortec. The 2 co-founders are thoracic surgeons that have done MedTech companies in the past. Our board is a lean board making room for our next round of investments across 2 independents with strategic experience, as well as 2 large investors. And then our R&D and clinical regulatory team has significant experience. When it comes to financials, we're looking at raising $30 million right now in this round, and that would get us through CE approval. It would get us through early revenues as well as our FDA pivotal start. Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about your development date and data?
The development data?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've done, the company's been in existence since 2014, and so we have small animal, large animal, all the way through 45 patients now. And we have histology at the animal level. I can get into all the detail of which proteins are signaling and all of that. It gets quite complex. But yeah, we have everything from, all of the device, that's the clinical data. From the device side, yeah, it's designs of leads. This is a tried and true market, so there's not a lot to reinvent. It's really just the therapy of the direct current.
Can you comment on the addressable market and on your revenue model?
Yeah, very good question. So 64 million is a lot of patients to go after. When you think of that surgical implant, which is more of an invasive implant, I think the target there is really the advanced heart failure patients. So in the US, there's 120 LVAD centers, 60,000 patients a year get evaluated for an LVAD, but only 5,000 are implanted. The other 55,000, the next step is hospice care. There's no other option for these patients. And these clinicians are willing to pay $100,000 on an LVAD for them. So I'm looking at pricing this compared to other heart failure products, somewhere in the 30 to 50K range is what we see with other interventions. And then pursuing a market penetration, maybe 10 to 15,000 devices a year.
Could you elaborate the difference, competitive advantage over the pacemaker? What is the difference between your device and pacemaker? And I heard your device actually healing the inside of the heart. Mm-hmm. Could you explain a little bit more about how does it actually bring this healing
Sure. So a pacemaker treats an arrhythmia. So if you have heart block or you have a slow heart rate, you put in a pacemaker to fix that condition. Just like if you have valve disease with reflux, you want to fix the valve, or dysynchrony, you want to put in a synchronization device. This actually creates an environment where it's non-specific to that type of etiology. It actually heals the heart tissue that's not overlapping or in competition to the other products.
So what is the exact mechanism of action? You're putting direct current and then it changes the proteins that are formed? Just to understand.
Yeah, so there's a couple mechanisms. One is initially, within a couple days, you actually see the ventricular walls thin, and that's due to electroosmosis. So they will reduce inflammation immediately. And then over weeks...
Why is that? I'm just trying to understand from physiological...
Why is that?
Why is that?
Yeah, so by creating a current through the myocardial tissue, just like ions, when they go back and forth, they get kind of energized by being in a current environment. And so when they're inflamed and holding fluid, by creating a current environment, they're more likely to expel that fluid that they've been holding on to.
All right, and up next, please welcome Christian Marinical, COO and co-founder of SwiftSync.
Hello guys, thank you for having me. So this is SwiftSync. I have 3 minutes to present. Neil Armstrong didn't have 3 minutes. He died after a nurse pulled the wires, temporary pacing wires, from his heart. And then he bled. Why do we have pacing wires? Well, we need to reestablish rhythm after heart surgery. But they are pulled, and when they are removed like this. Ouch. No wonder there are complications, right? Bleeding. So there are other options for pacing, but there are limitations. They don't do dual chamber pacing, and there is no AV synchrony. And they can dislodge. You can have a 30% loss of pacing capture. So SwiftSync put things together, and with that, a single pacing catheter can do both AV sequential pacing. We increase stroke volume by 50% because we have that. And we also, with the patent technology, secure the wires to the heart and maintain contact at any given time, avoiding dislodgement. The addressable market is big. We are about 300 million spent in 2022 and has a CAGR of 6.3, so we expect the value to be 500 million by the end of 2030. One of those things is pushing the market is structural heart procedures like TAVI, which has a CAGR of 18% right now. Competitors, Medtronic, Edwards Lifesciences, Johnson & Johnson, Teleflex, all of them have this technology, but they don't do what we do, which is dual chamber pacing. Where are we with SwiftSync? We submitted our 510K. We're expecting an answer by the end of the year. We have a strong IP portfolio, and we are with scale production talks with NobleCath, SureTech. Financial model. We expect to go next year to market with 500 units or so, market penetration, an ASP of $500 with a gross margin of 50%. 2026, take it from there, and then CE mark in 2027. Financial needs, Series B, we're looking for $7 million. We've been cash efficient. And this is the team. Dr. DeMarchena, structural heart interventional cardiologist, sold the first mitral valve to Abbott for $250 million. Mr. Rick Torren, the CEO, EpiPen and Holter, we use that every day. Very successful exits. Myself, I have a lot of, over 15 years of experience in clinical research and regulatory. Marcos Caro with being a leader in delivering operational effectiveness. And we're bringing Steve Wilson for VP of Sales and Marketing to help us on our product launch. Thank you.
So I think there's some companies out there going after extra cardiac or extravascular pacing technologies to be safer, not be blood contacting. So why would a physician want to continue to pick up this technology over one of those if they were to reach the market?
Yeah, we're familiar with those. They cannot do AV sequential pacing, and that's how you're born. That's why you want AV sequential pacing, to have that atrial kick, which increases your stroke volume. Other companies, they only pays the ventricle extracorporeal as well. And remember one thing, we're talking about temporary. It's not permanent implant. So that's what distinguishes us, the dual chamber pacing.
And if I could ask another question, how is the IP protection of this technology? How do you keep Medtronic or Abbott or whoever from coming in and just building something similar?
We have a strong IP portfolio. I mean, we have about 4 patents and 3 going already.
And what's your go-to-market strategy?
So we want to have a market penetration with 4 or 5 beta sites in the US after FDA approval, and then go to key opinion leaders, go to presentations, present our post-market registry with the 500 units that I'm talking about, and start spreading the word, and then grow from there.
All right, thank you, Christian. Up next, let's please welcome Wessam Sarhan, co-founder and co-CEO of Incura.
Okay, we started. Okay, so introducing Incura. Incura is an IP medical device company. And to understand more, let's start with the problem, which is at the same time opportunity. Looking at the global market is huge, but it suffers from innovation gaps. And this is in itself an opportunity because some of the medical devices haven't been touched by innovation for decades. Moving to the MENA region, which is another layer of opportunity where 90% of the medical devices are imported. So that's why in Incura we innovated, licensed, and manufactured. And how we do this is that we spot a market opportunity and an innovation gap. We develop a solution towards this innovation gap, and then this IP solution is licensed for manufacturing. And to give an example of what we've actually done, let's give an example of one of our products, which is Curasil. Up to now, the hemostatic powder market relied on a very strong product, which is Arista, produced by a BD. It's a very good product produced of starch, which is highly biocompatible, but it is at the same time doesn't penetrate the blood. Surgicel powder was produced by Johnson & Johnson, detected this innovation gap, so they developed a product that can penetrate the blood. However, it's made of oxidized cellulose, so it causes tissue inflammation. At Incura, we spotted the 2 innovation gaps. We developed Curasil, which is made of starch and highly biocompatible. We are a B2B business model. Our products are our IPs, and our manufacturers and distributors are our customers. We target a huge market of 500 billion, and in the MENA region alone, 31.6 billion. And introducing other products.
Yeah. As Wissam was just mentioning, we've introduced the Curasil, and this isn't the only product that we've introduced in the hemostatic field. We've also introduced Colisorb. The main competitive advantages for Colisorb are the absorption capacity that reaches up to 6 times its weight, meaning 1 gram of such material can absorb up to 60 grams of blood. Not only that, it doesn't require pre-wetting, meaning it can be directly taken out of the package into the surgical sites. Why the competitive advantage regarding the Curasil product that we've just mentioned is in its design. We've been able to design the microparticle in a concave structure that resembles the red blood cells with 8 to 10 micrometers. Not only that, we've been able to introduce nanopores to its surface. We're not stopping here. We're also addressing the multi-layered wound dressing with a single tender in Saudi reaches up to 60 million Saudi riyal, and we are introducing Curafoam with a very strong manufacturing partner in Saudi, Sigala. And this is done currently at the American University in Cairo, as well as KSCA, and we are currently expanding to the European market as well as the US market with potential licensing agreement.
So I just saw your device. So your powder product is sealed in the device, and you actually seal the device. Could you show me the device, the picture? Can you show me?
Yes.
So I'm curious how you actually regulate the one-time dosage to when you kind of use the pump or something syringe, how the actual users or maybe doctors can regulate it?
Yeah, so that's a very good question because as we mentioned previously, what the market relied on is Arista. Arista or the hemostatic powders are powders that are supplied in this kind of pumping applicator that comes with two tips for the direct wounds and for the laparoscopic applicators for endoscopic surgeries. So what was done with Arista is that it doesn't have this lock mechanism where the amount of powder, usually this powder comes in two amounts, 1 gram or 3 grams. So when the surgeon begins just flipping the applicator, the particle drips. So also we not only innovated in the particle structure as Musa mentioned in its concave shape, but we also innovated in the applicator where ours have a lock mechanism where the surgeon can control the application of the powder at the surgical site. Yes, this is the applicator that we have this kind of lock mechanism that is also patented, allowing the surgeon to control the amount of powder applied at the surgical site.
Is the chemical material also different, or is the novelty in the way that it is applied?
Designed, and I'll leave Musa answer this question.
Here it's mainly about the design, the engineering part. So we're here talking about a microparticle in a concave structure. So the majority of the innovation is to be able to design and sense a concave microparticle and of the same size as the red blood cells, 8 to 10 micrometers. So these structures capabilities add two main advantages. One is the adhesion to the bleeding sites. Instead of just spherical particles, we have a concave structured particles. This one side. The other side is that these nanopores that we've introduced to its surface enabled it to rapidly absorb the liquid from the blood itself, so it expand in size from 5 to 6 times its original weight. That means concentrating the blood clotting factors, and that means enhancing the clotting effects.
I saw your pipeline is kind of a future wound dressing. So J&J is very famous for bandage. And are you trying to cannibalize the J&J bandage? What is your plan?
All right. Thank you all. Judges, if you could actually stay seated, we'll collect the papers. We're going to do a photo, and then we'll go from there. Winner will also, again, be announced shortly. All right. The votes are in. Not sure what they say on American Idol, but we have a winner. So please welcome John Brumfield from Berlin Heels.